Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Nittany No Huddle Podcast. From Philadelphia to Los Angeles and everywhere in between. Filmed at the Nittany No Huddle studio. It's Jordo, Zach, and Coach Devin covering all.
All right. Welcome back to Nittany No Huddle Podcast. I guess our intro got a little messed up there, so we'll work on that for next time. But welcome back. What a huge win. Final score, Nittany Lions 45, Minnesota 17. So let's start off. What a win. I feel like that one really brought us back in, boys. So we'll start with the play calling. What do you guys think of tonight's play calling? Zach or Devin, whoever wants to start, speak up.
I think you got to be pretty impressed from both sides of the ball. We'll start just briefly on the offense. A number of the things that we actually talked about in our preview in terms of you have to take shots. You got to make the defense respect the whole field. You have to find a way to force feed the tight ends the ball. You got to go into the game with a plan. We're going to get the tight ends involved because I think, as you saw, we've got some solid tight ends and guys that are good pass catchers and decent runners in space. And just try to be creative, get Singleton the ball in the space, maybe the screen game. I think we saw all of that from an offensive standpoint. We saw, obviously, Clifford took a shot early downfield and it wasn't there, and it didn't work out, obviously, and it led to Minnesota getting an easy 3 points. But basically from that point on, all of the shots downfield that we took, I think were in smart opportunities, and you had a couple instances where players actually made a play. Parker Washington had a great play in the end zone where I think Clifford made a good throw in terms of it was a sort of a 50-50 ball. You let his guy go up and get it, and he did. The tight ends, I saw a lot of sort of too high safety in recent weeks where teams are starting to not respect the run game and just kind of sit back and take away those deep shots. And one of the ways to beat that too high safety look is to use the tight end, get them behind the linebackers and in front of the safeties and hit that window in the middle. And you had the Warren touchdown pass. You had the touchdown pass to Theo Johnson. You had a couple other passes to Theo Johnson in the middle. So I think the coaching staff maybe saw something there that teams were getting a little too reliant on that too deep high safety and were able to get the tight ends involved, and great screen pass to Singleton early in the game. So I just think from an offensive standpoint, they got a little creative and they made things happen and gave us some different looks than we had seen, which I think we kind of needed. Things had gotten a little stale. And then defensively, we'll talk about this more, I think, with specifically the run defense. But I thought Diaz came in with a good game plan. Obviously, Minnesota, without their starting quarterback, it makes it difficult to come into this type of environment and sustain a lot of offensive success. So clearly the goal was stop the run and make the redshirt freshman quarterback beat us. And I think for the most part that was successful on Penn State's part. So I was pretty impressed. I think the coaching staff came in with a pretty good game plan and largely that plan was executed.
Yeah, all good stuff there. Devin, what did you think of the play calling? I know that was one of your big topics you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so the first quarter was awful. Yurcik did not do a good job in the first quarter. And then surprisingly, it took Sean Clifford making a terrible overthrown into double coverage pass for Yurcik to kind of it felt like he changed his game. We stopped doing the things that we've been doing the last 2.5 weeks. We went on, I sent you the guys a text that over the last 19 drives, we had 9 punts, 8 turnovers, and 1 touchdown, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. But after that Sean Clifford interception, we started doing the things that we had been talking about as a podcast and other podcasts that have been talking about for a while now of getting the people involved that need to be involved. We've said that we didn't have receivers that really scared people. But when we took a shot to Tinsley down the sideline, we take a shot to Parker Washington in the middle of the field, and we utilize these tight ends that are clearly some of the best in the Big Ten Conference. I think we have 3 of the 8 or 9 best tight ends in the conference, and we haven't used them other than Brenton Strange. I don't know if they just forgot that Theo Johnson was on the roster until tonight, but he was a huge impact. And I loved getting Katron Allen and Singleton involved in the passing game. I had been saying since preseason that I wanted to see Singleton catch the ball in space, just because I don't trust our offensive line, and I still don't think our offensive line played well tonight. I thought they were very suspect. And if we can't run effectively, then doing things like screen passes or wheel routes or just getting the running backs in space, not in the running game, I think makes the most sense. And I thought Yursik did an outstanding job for 3 quarters after the first one. We also saw a lot of formations that we didn't see, and I don't want to jump too far ahead into our third talking point, but we'll get into that with some formations that we did not use the last couple of weeks that looked new and fresh, and that was exciting for me.
Yeah, I was really surprised after the big turnover how we kind of rallied and changed the game plan. And it was very effective. And we can go right into the second point, the run defense. Very impressive to hold them. I don't have the stats up right now, but maybe one of you guys can bring them up about total rushing yards. Zach, if you want to cover that.
Yeah, so they had 165 yards on 46 carries. And Ibrahim, who, if you watch the game, they referenced I guess he got today, he had 30 carries for 102 and a touchdown. So he got over the 100-yard mark for the 15th game in a row. But that's I'm happy with that, honestly. An average of 3.4. He got to 100, so be it. But it took him 30 carries to get there. So I think that's pretty much job well done. Actually, in the first half, Khalil Manis had a few really good scrambles, and he kind of hurt Penn State in the first half. But for the one long shot that he took down the sideline and some of his good scrambles, they really didn't move the ball at all. So really, I think the bar wasn't going to be too high in terms of run defense after the Michigan game. It was just like, let's do better than that. Let's not give up 300, 400 yards. But I think largely they answered the bell.
Yeah, I'm with you, Zach. I fully expected Minnesota to come in and just, we made the joke last year all the time, pound the rock. We expected them to just run it down our throats every time. And obviously, I think this could be a larger discussion maybe in our full recap rather than spending a lot of time right now. But was it just an anomaly that we were able to put 8 guys in the box because Khalil Manis wasn't quite ready? It's a huge ask to be a freshman coming into a Penn State whiteout, making your first career start. I wouldn't want to do it. So kudos to him for playing decent. He wasn't great, but he definitely could have been a lot worse. And it's like you said, we were able to really stop Ibrahim from doing the things that he's done to other teams this year. So 102 yards. I would have loved to be the team that held him under 100. Obviously, that would have been cool to fun trivia facts for a few years to hold him under 100 and snap his streak. But he's a heck of a running back, and like Zach said, he did get a lot of those kind of late. I think he was at like 81 or something when Penn State went up by 3 scores and was able to get those last 20 against kind of a mixed match defense. I saw a lot of reserve guys in at especially the defensive line on those last couple of drives. So the other thing that really stands out to me defensively, we have talked about third down a lot, and Minnesota was 2 of 13. That is huge, and it's because they did not have 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. They were 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, because we did a really good job of getting TFLs on first down, of incomplete passes on second down, and it forced them into doing things that they didn't want to do on third down, which completely changes the Michigan game last week. If we would have been able to do something like that. So again, if call out Yursik for doing such a great job. I thought Manny Diaz did a really good job overall, just with some different stunts. I liked the Joey Porter blitz that we had at one point. And I'm sure Zach will probably be more able to talk about this. Finally getting Abdul Carter to start at linebacker over Jonathan Sutherland. Him and Jacobs on the field together, I think, is a scary combination. They both fly around so much. No, they're not always where they need to be, but they just fly around, and they could be really dangerous through the stretch, having both of them on the field at the same time. And Elsdon did just enough to where I felt like he was helping us. And then we got a nice little Charlie Catch sighting in there too. So
Yeah, Devin, I couldn't agree more with your talking points there. I I really was impressed by our defense tonight, and even though we did give up 100 yards, like they had to earn every single one of them. So that I think that was the biggest takeaway too, is how we finally changed up our defensive scheme, and it feels like, and maybe this is just Manny Diaz, coming off being let go from Miami, but it seems like he really cares about, changing it up when something didn't work last week. Like he took full responsibility and was like, hey, I need to do better. I need to figure something else out. And we came out with some different looks that we haven't seen at all under Manny Diaz so far. So, Zach, did you want to touch on anything else there?
No, I mean, I think you guys largely covered it. I think for me, the tell immediately was the Michigan game. You just watched the line of scrimmage at the snap of the ball, and it was just a wave, right? Immediately in this game, you could tell, even on the run plays where Minnesota had some success, there was defensive linemen that were getting a push and getting into the backfield and disrupting the play. And you just kind of saw that over and over again. And that's ultimately how you stop a good running team, is you got to stonewall some of their offensive linemen, and either get in the backfield yourself and cause disruption, or stonewall their offensive linemen and allow your linebackers to flow to the ball. And so I think there was a lot of scheme stuff like you guys referenced there, but I think at the end of the day, it was maybe as much scheme stuff as it was also equally just guys making plays and getting a push and just not getting washed into the defensive backfield every play like you saw in Michigan. And a lot of that is obviously the difference in talent between Michigan and Minnesota. But I think Minnesota has some pretty good offensive linemen. They referenced their center is really, I think, a pretty highly regarded. He may have been like a all Big Ten player last year. So I think part of it is just you take that beat down that they had at Michigan, and you got the whiteout coming up, and you got to show up. And I think, and largely they did show up and played physical and made a lot of plays.
Yeah, I was very happy. This is like the kind of turnaround game I feel like we needed. Kind of got us back on the right track, having Ohio State next week, getting this under our belt. Like Minnesota's a good team. Like they're a good team. They're not crazy great or anything like that, but to take care of business like we did tonight it's a good sign, and I think it gives the fan base a little hope. I'm trying not to overreact because I don't want another Auburn stunt. But
if we're gonna, I don't mean to cut you off there, but if we're gonna,
go ahead.
Critique Franklin as we did with the Michigan game, one of the and specifically in the context of why are we always so bad out of bye weeks? One of the other things we've seen over the years with Franklin is a lot of times we'll have one loss turn into two, right? And we after we pick up the first loss, I'm thinking like Michigan State 2017, Michigan State 2018, after the Ohio State losses, where we show up equally bad after a loss, when you'd think that you would use that to kind of lick your wounds and reassess them. And so tonight we didn't have that, right? The team, obviously, the Michigan game, you burn the tape, bury it in the backyard, whatever. They put it behind them, and we showed up like a team with everything still on the table in front of you. And so I think, wherever you sit on the coaching staff, you've got to at least tip your cap and say they clearly had the guys ready, and they said, look, just forget about the last game. Don't let Michigan beat you twice, is I think maybe the way to describe it. And they showed up ready to play today, and you got to give them that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess we'll move on to our third talking point, pre-snap movements, which kind of goes hand in hand. I want to talk about our tight end play today. I mean, what more do I need to say about the tight ends, right? Like that was kind of what we wanted to see all year. I know we've been calling for it multiple weeks in a row, but it seems like they must be listeners of the podcast, because they dialed it up with that first touchdown to Tyler Warren. So I'll turn it over to you, Devin. What do you want to say about the pre-snap movements? You can go in a little more detail, and then also the tight end play as well.
Yeah, so this goes back to, I don't remember, 3 weeks ago or whatever the podcast was, where we talked a lot about Sean Clifford, the quarterback, of like, what is he good at? Why has he won this job? Why does he still have this job over such a highly touted freshman, even though he makes a lot of mistakes? And I think one thing that we talked about, and I tried to bring up, is that Sean Clifford is at his best whenever he can tell what the defense is in. If he doesn't have to think after he gets the ball from the center, wait, are they in zone or are they in man? Where's my first, second, third read? He has always been better whenever he can set his feet and knows exactly, this is my first read, this is my second read. If neither of them are open, I'm running the ball. And we called for more pre-snap movement, getting people in motion. Flipping the tight end was something that I specifically called for on this podcast last week, and we saw it tonight. And it blew my mind whenever I saw it. I almost punched a hole in my wall like Andy Bernard because I was so excited. Because the tight end started on one side, motioned to the other side, and then they ran it that way. I think of the one big play to Tinsley was they sent Parker Washington in motion, and it showed Clifford they are in single coverage, or they're in man coverage. And I mean, yeah, Tinsley made one heck of a catch, but at least he knew that he had man on man coverage and it wasn't a zone look. I also think it goes back to, and before I throw this to Zach, I think it goes back to our receivers aren't that good. As much as I want them to be, I think we all kind of bought into a little overhype on all of them. I think Tinsley is really solid. I don't think he's amazing, but he's really solid. Parker Washington has been a letdown all season. He had obviously an amazing catch tonight. Other than that, I don't know what he was doing. I thought he was terrible, other than that one amazing catch. And I think that whenever we see zone coverage, our wide receivers don't do a good job of finding open space for Clifford to throw it to. Obviously, out of the three of us, I am by far the biggest Clifford hater. I would have benched him 4 years ago. But I think that at the end of the day, a lot of blame has to go to the wide receivers, and getting our wide receivers in the best spots just makes Sean Clifford look so much better. I mean, his stat line tonight is amazing. It's really, really good because we knew what we needed to do, and he was able to diagnose the defense. I think Greg McElroy, who also I think is a super underrated commentator, I think he's one of my favorites, honestly. I don't know about you guys, but I think he's super underrated. He said tonight, Clifford's missed some passes, but that's just who he is. He'll also make a couple good throws. And I think that sums it up. Yeah, he's going to miss some passes. But how many times is that the wide receiver's fault? And I think that I'm going to try, especially against Ohio State, to see whose fault is it really. Is it the wide receiver's fault? Because there was times tonight, I know Zach called out that one that could have been pass interference really early in the game. Wide receiver just broke off his route. Like, what? Clifford almost threw a pick, but the wide receiver just broke off his slant route. He just stopped. Yeah, maybe he got hit, but fight through it. You're a college wide receiver at a D1 school. You can't fight through a little contact.
Or at least
I think that
if you're
at least flop and get the LeBron penalty on there or something. I don't know, but either way, Clifford looked really good at times. He made, I think, 4 really, really bad throws. But I don't know. The movement, I think, is the biggest thing, is all the motion. I mean, we even had a play where Singleton lined up in a slot, motioned back to the running back, and then we ran with him. Like, that's something we haven't done this season. We used to do it a lot with Miles Sanders and with Saquon, but we haven't done it yet this season. And obviously that's a different offensive coordinator now. But those little things really help. So I hope that we can continue that into Ohio State. We had bunch formations that we haven't really seen. We had 2 tight ends. I think, Zach, you correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I saw a 3 tight end package out there a couple times. I think that Yurcik did a really good job of play calling and setting up good formations.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look for the 3 tight end. I didn't catch that, but it certainly may have been out there. But so I'll say, and I think I've been the one that's been most critical, maybe out of deference to Clifford or defending Clifford, most critical of our receivers. And I will say they did make some plays tonight. The play that Devin was referencing was Harrison Wallace. Yeah. I think it was pass interference, but only because he basically stopped running the slant route. And there's some routes that once you commit, you have to run the route because the quarterback is throwing the ball, the cornerback's breaking. And so at that point early in the game, I think the way I described that when we were texting was this offense you can point the blame at Clifford. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but it's just like everyone is sort of like consistently inconsistent. And obviously in the second half, things started to come together. I was a little disappointed. We really did not run the ball well early. The first couple drives that the offensive line was getting no push whatsoever. So, maybe we'll have to go back and look. Was there some sort of scheme change, or was it just the guys took a little bit, took a quarter to get going? It may have been that, but it's just, the pieces are there. I think I'm a Clifford defender. I think he's competent. Is he going to win a national title? No. Is he the problem on the offense? No. Do you have some freshman tailbacks with one with really good speed, but maybe needs to kind of mature and improve in other areas, and then one that doesn't have that sort of the breakaway speed, but I think has good vision and is maybe more of a complete back. And then you've got some receivers, I think, who do a lot of nice things, but none of them, the way I've described it over these last few weeks, is they don't really scare anybody. And to his credit, Parker Washington went out and made the type of play that I've been saying that, like, I just don't think we have a receiver that's going to run a skinny post and have one-on-one, and the quarterback throws a good quality 50-50 jump ball, and they'll go up and make the play. And he did that. So I got to give him that credit. You referenced Tinsley in that great call on Devin's part. Tinsley had a great one-handed basket catch, and that was another throw that I think that was a really quality throw from Clifford.
Yeah.
Sort of just put it where only they could get it.
Right. So it's like we have these moments. There's these flashes of brilliance where you see the player in their most positive light. But I think as a, not just because we have a podcast, but as a fan, I think you've got an obligation to also see things when they don't go well, right? And don't just brush them off. So I think we do a good job of critiquing the players. And so I think tonight we got to give some credit on certain plays, but it's just, again, the offensive line. I think as the game went on, I think you started to see a really good run push from the offensive line, and the run game. Both Singleton and Allen had some really nice runs, but it's sort of like, where was that for the first quarter? And so the pieces are there. We have moments that look really good, but it's just not. And again, it's hard to nitpick because what was it, a 45-17 final? So I'm not saying it's into the world, but you'd like to see one of these games where you just dominate from start to finish, and they didn't quite do that. But you've got to be, So maybe Auburn is the one where we had that, but so all that to say, there's a lot of good to take away, but there's still those head scratching moments where we're like, I feel like we're so close to being a fully complete team. We're just not quite there. But
do either of you guys happen to have the third down stats for today?
Yeah, I have them right in front of me.
Okay.
You want both?
I just wanted to know what we were on third down today.
We were 5 of 11, so just under 50%, which is better. I mean, we're at 31% for the year, something like that. I think we said.
Yeah.
So, plus the fact we only had 11 third downs, which I think, Jordan, you brought up in the last podcast, is if we're getting in those 15 to 17 third down attempts, it's because we're not getting first downs on first and second down. Yeah. And tonight we did every once in a while. We got enough.
That's why I was curious what we were, because I kind of it felt like we were getting those first downs on first and second down. Yeah. And I think that's when Clifford's at his best, is when we don't need to throw for 8-9 yards or more on third down. Because those are typically the ones we don't get, because we're like, I feel like we're always like 4th and 1, 4th and 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like every other quarterback. He's better or at his best when we're capable of throwing the ball on first down and having success, and running the ball on first down, and knowing you can get 3 or 4 or 5 yards on first down automatically, making the second down play easier, which makes the third down play easier. And I think, Devin, you may recall, I think Minnesota was ranked really highly coming into this game in terms of third down efficiency.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
And a lot of that, I think, was some of it is the schedule, and some of it is just they've had a really good run game. So your third downs, if you have a really good run game, your third downs are more often going to be, your 3rd and 1, your 3rd and 2. And I think, Devin, you already hit on this, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but Penn State did a really good job in making Minnesota really have to work for their third downs. And they obviously, it didn't work out for them because they were 2 of 13. They were 2 of 3 on 4th down, but nevertheless, they basically made Minnesota play outside of its comfort zone all game, and that's the name of the game, especially when you have a backup quarterback in. And I think actually they mentioned too, for that poor guy, I think he I think he lost his senior season of high school to COVID, because I think they were saying, if I recall, his last start was as a junior in high school. Because
so that was kind of confusing to me. Maybe if we really care, we can look it up. But they also said that he missed his senior year because of like a shoulder injury or something. So
okay,
like
maybe
but then they did say something about missing a season because of COVID. So I didn't know if that was his
maybe he hasn't played since
true
his
freshman
year.
But they did, like Zach said, they definitely said that he hasn't made a start since his junior year of high school.
Yeah.
And then they said he missed his senior year for an injury. And then they said he missed his senior year for COVID. So I didn't know if maybe that was just one of them spoke up, and maybe that was his true freshman year at Minnesota was the COVID year or something. Or he got hurt the true freshman year at Minnesota, and he's actually a third year freshman. I'm not sure. That was confusing to me, but I guess
whatever the story is on that, I think he largely stepped up and played okay considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, threw an interception. Like I said, the first half, he threw the touchdown that Minnesota scored right before half, which really made it a ball game. He threw a pass down the sideline that was just unbelievable, and the receiver with the getting his toe in bounds, and he had some nice scrambles too. I think he's a decent athlete, but it kind of was just too much of an ask, I think, under the circumstances, to say, hey, go into Beaver Stadium in the whiteout and they're going to stop the run, and now you're going to have to do more than we typically ask the quarterback to do at Minnesota. That was too much of an ask, I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that I was going to bring up one more point. I mean, do we have the best home field advantage in college football? Like, in all honesty, we play so different in the whiteout than we do any other game. It's kind of remarkable. I know, Devin, you had brought up, like, when's the last time we got blown out, like truly blown out in a whiteout game? It's been a while.
Have we ever?
And usually,
I think maybe never. It depends.
Yeah,
Depends how you define a blowout, but
yeah,
I would say more than 20 points, more than 17 points. I would consider.
I bet it's.
Yeah, I would say 3 scores is a blowout, so I would say 17.
But yeah, like,
I just don't understand. Like, why is the whiteout so intimidating? And maybe this will be our thumbnail clickbait title for the next podcast or something. Like, why don't we just do a whiteout every game then? If it's so intimidating, obviously, playing at night, I think the whiteout is extremely amplified at night compared to noon. Whenever you have 109,000 drunk fans from all day versus
I was going to say that
starting drinking at 6 a.m., which, I mean, we've all done that, but it hasn't been great. So I agree. I think the whiteout might be the most intimidating home field advantage at least in football, college or
unless
pro.
Unless you're Joe Burrow.
Yeah, unless you're Joe Burrow. But
I just said it wasn't intimidating. I just don't
know why. If it's so good, why don't we do it every time?
We might get a lot of comments too saying, "Oh, that's nothing. It's just noise." What's the difference between 100,000 and 80,000? But you see it. I mean, Minnesota had like 5 false starts in the first half.
Yeah.
You had the Michigan game in 2018 where they come in and they had to call a timeout on the first. So I think it's
when they play Mo Bamba too. Every time they play Mo Bamba, it's a penalty. Like every time.
Yeah, I think at a minimum there's some level of
it's the frequency.
There's some level of impact that it has on your operation. I don't know that it really changes. Like if you come in with Ohio State's athletes, like you're going to play well. But I think it has some level of impact on your operation. Just the snap counts, how you get plays in and out from the coordinators, and it definitely has some level of impact. I think statistically the false starts and whatnot have been proven by that. And we also had a blocked punt tonight too. It still was more of like a tipped punt. It still got downfield, but that was nice to see special teams coming up with trying to make a game-changing play.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, is that the second or first most famous Michigan timeout? That one's for you, Coach Devin.
First, because the other one wasn't actually a timeout.
It was a technical foul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But yeah, I think that's all I got. Unless you guys have something else, keep this right under 30 minutes.
No, I'll save my last point for our full breakdown. I need to talk to an offensive line coach before then.
Okay.
We gotta rest up, get our sleep, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about this week with it being Ohio State week, I'm sure.
Yeah, get your Twitter fingers ready.
Yep, and we got an Ohio State fan coming on, so it's going to be real hostile on the podcast.
Especially since half our followers, I think, are Michigan fans.
Yeah, yeah, which is good because we need your support against Ohio State.
Yeah.
So
exactly, everybody wants to see us beat Ohio State. So I think
Except
we'll end
for
with
Ohio
that.
State.
Except for Ohio State, exactly. So I think we'll end with that, unless you guys got anything else.
Who was the closest on our predictions this week? It wasn't
the clickbait title strikes
always. Every time.
It's like been the closest like 4 out of the first 6 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know who was close. I honestly don't remember what I predicted.
It wasn't me.
I think we all had very similar scores.
Yeah.
Actually, Devin's was a little bit lower. I think Jordan and I.
No, mine was high. I had 31-30.
Oh. Okay. Well, you were closer on the Penn State side because I think Jordan and I were both at like 21 or 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I think I picked an actual
let's just call
number.
I win again. Nope, I win again. We'll just call it.
Come on, I need some wins. Did you guys see my pick'ems?
Yeah, you were 4-4.
Yeah, you rebounded. Texas.
You only lost one game today.
Texas blowing it helped you.
Yeah.
Did I really only lose one game?
TCU.
I mean, you only fell one
brief.
more in the standing.
Gotcha.
I gained one game on you. Yeah.
You looked like you're in trouble because Texas blew a game that would have gotten you another loss, and then TCU. I don't know if you guys saw the K-State TCU game, but
yeah,
K-State was up 28-10, and then TCU scored the final 28 points and won 38-28.
And then you texted us, K-State looks great, and then
that was the kiss of death. So I'm sorry, Wildcat fans. That one was on me.
It could be because I'm in Texas that both horns went down and TCU went up. So just saying. I did see no joking, I saw a horned frog today. So
that kid, I don't know if either of you saw it, but some kid had a shirt on that said "Fear the Frog." That was awesome. It was like black and purple with like the logo was like faded behind it. Oh, it looked really cool.
I'll have to look it up and see if we can buy some.
Yeah, that's one for Jordan. I think that he'll actually start wearing. Get rid of burn the Baylor shirt. You need a different one now. So.
I know Baylor screwed me again by winning. I can't win with them. I might pick up a Miners t-shirt while I'm down here.
Sweet.
So.
Yeah, I like the Miners. That'd be a good one.
So that's all I got. Unless you guys got anything else.
No, we're good.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching the Nittany No Huddle podcast. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Podcasts are posted weekly on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss one of our new shows.